Hey guys, and welcome back to another spooky video. So as you can see, it is currently steamy in here because I got myself an electric pot. So we're going to try some hot pot today. I have never tried hot pot. I don't know if I'm doing it right or doing it wrong. Leave it in the comments down below. So on this tray right here, let me move this. So I have some pork, some shrimp, some Napa cabbage, some bean sprouts, some shiitake mushrooms, large chunks of chives, and then also a little baby bok choy to snack on or to like throw into the pot. And then in the pot I have some potatoes and then some other mushrooms that I had left in the fridge, and then also the Little Sheep hot pot soup mix. And then I have some chili garlic sauce and some kimchi just as another snack. And then I want to put some noodles in, so I'm going to put some of these rice noodles in. I usually get the fresh ones, but I always end up overcooking the fresh ones, and I found these last time and I love them, and I just love the wide flat rice noodles, so that's what I'm going to use for my soup today instead of like rice or like thin rice noodles. So if you see me like patting myself, which I probably will do a lot, it's because I'm sweating because I have to turn off the AC whenever I film, and I have a light on, and I have all my other lights on to even add to the lighting. And then now I have this pot boiling in front of me, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Just got that on my phone. Love that. I'm going to take a sip. So I don't know what I should throw in first. Like, should I throw in some of the noodles? I guess I'll throw in some of the noodles real quick. These noodles are pretty good, honestly. And this broth, it smells very like fruity. Like, I think there are jujubes in it, I think is the name. But I tasted it earlier and it's very like, it does taste spicy, so. I'm pretty sure that's my cat. That's my cat. Let's see if you'll see him. So let's go ahead and just drop this meat in there. I'm gonna drop some of the pork in there. I'm gonna drop some shrimp in there. I wasn't even thinking of shrimp, and then like, cause I was about to sit down and film this video, like I had the soup boiling, and then I looked on, and I remembered I forgot to buy Napa cabbage. And I remember that when we went to our local grocery store a few days ago, they actually had Napa cabbage. So your girl went and got some Napa cabbage. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw everything in there, like veggie wise. This looks so good. Throw the cabbage in there too. I'm just trying to go as I see other mukbangers do. Mainly Stephanie Sue, I love her. And so today we are of course doing another Spooktober video. So we are talking about the case of, I'm gonna butcher her name, Alycatjewelry. Oh, I'm so bad. But she was originally from India, but she came over here. I'm gonna put this heat up a little bit more real quick. She, let's see how much of all this I can finish too. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take me forever to finish this. The broth is good. I'm just gonna put in a little bit of the bok choy. Put 2 in. Yeah, she's spicy. Why is it spicy? So it's about Alycatjewelry. I'm pretty sure I'm saying her name wrong, and I'm so sorry if I am. Don't mean anything by it. Where did I put my napkin? I can already feel that this video is going to be a shit show. So if you're looking for a shit show, welcome. That broth is really good, honestly. So, she's originally from India, but she moved over here when she was in her 20s. Get some kimchi. went and got a fresh jar. Okay. I'm one of those people that can like eat their food like super hot. And sometimes I do burn my mouth, but usually I don't. So. This is what I needed. A little bowl to like hold my stuff that I'm working on. So first off, let's talk about, she accomplished so many things in her life. Yes, I'm gonna chill with my knee up. I'm the most comfortable eating that way usually. And she accomplished so much. She was very into like arts and like things like that, but she wanted to pursue something more in the tech world. So she did, and she like conquered that stuff. She was amazing. Well, this is really good. So, I hope these noodles cook faster. I want to eat one. They're still like chewy. They're not. They're not cooked yet. So, she joined the tech world and conquered it. She like, in India, she entered a lot of like programming and like tech type contests. And I think a few of them she didn't win, but she always got like honorable mentions because she was so young. And most people she went against were not that young. She decides after all that she wants to experience more, so she moves to America to pursue the American dream. She studied over here. Got a degree. And after she got her degree and like stayed here for a few years, she decided to actually like live here. So Halloween night, 2008, her apartment complex she was telling her work friends that like, oh hey, like I'm so excited, like tonight, Halloween, it just happened to fall on a Friday too, so it was like, everyone was really partying this year. Like Halloween night, like my apartment complex, we're doing like, in our whole building, we're doing separate parties but like traveling to each other's apartments. Which is a pretty cool idea, but for this case that just like, you know, recipe for disaster really, because now everyone's DNA is everywhere. So, I want some of these noodles. These mushrooms are really good. The shiitake ones. I have a shrimp in here that's like probably like cooked to the gods. Yeah, here she is. She, you know, goes to these parties, dresses up. So the party starts, right, and she's, you know, mingling. They start off at someone else's apartment, I believe, and then they eventually make it to hers. They, you know, go in between everyone's apartments. And she, around like, I want to say 3 a.m. is when she says, okay, like, I'm gonna go home. So she goes to her apartment and goes home for the night. Now, around a little bit after 3 a.m., neighbors reported that they did hear moaning, like it sounded like consensual sex. My cat just scared himself. I don't know what he was doing, but everyone's partying, everyone's having a great time. There is one altercation between her and another guy at one point during one of the parties. But the police did interview him and whatnot, and his story did check out. Apparently it was nothing that anyone needed to be worried about. Apparently the fight was about race, so apparently he might have said something like racial towards her that upset her that night. But apparently it was resolved with, after, and it was fine. So, and then the neighbors reported that around 8 a.m. they heard noise coming from her apartment again, but it was like the water ran for like an hour straight, which, if you've never lived, well, I mean, even houses too, because even in our house, like, you can hear like everything, like whenever like you flush the toilet or things like that. So they could hear the water running for like a good hour at least, is what the neighbors were saying. And that by that time they heard like grunting or like some type of like growling. I'm just struggling today. So they heard like almost like growling or grunting, but didn't really think much of it. No. She's not reported missing, or like her body's not found until November 3rd. So another thing too, even though she was from India and decided to not go back to India after she finished her studies in America, she still was really close with her family. She still talked to them almost like every single day. And so earlier the day of the party, she told them about the parties and whatnot. And the next day, that was a good save. They didn't hear from her, and they kept on trying to get a hold of her and couldn't, get a hold of her. So they called a family friend to go check on her. And she didn't show up for work on Monday, which was very suspicious because she always made it to work. So they send a family friend over there to go check on her. And as the family friend is going to check on her, they run into a neighbor named CJ, which lives across from her. Or next to her, actually. So and they're like, hey, like, have you heard from her? And they're like, no, I actually haven't. Like, so they go to knock on her door. And as they're going to knock on the door opens. It had been broken, and someone had kicked it in to get into her house. and they find a pretty gruesome scene. She was in her room, naked, murdered. Her apartment smelled of bleach and oil. So they're like, okay, like what happened here? You know, like trying to figure out what happened. So they go to her, they go inside, they see her, they call 911, and in this town that they're in, they're next to a town that has a lot of crime, but this specific town does not. So it took the cops 4 hours to even show up, which is kind of weird because if there's not a lot of crime, you would think they would show up, but I don't know. And they were very unexperienced with murder cases like these. So also too, another thing, there's so much information about this case, especially for it to be technically an unsolved case. There's a lot of information. So if this video may seem all over the place, it is because I am all over the place, because it's hard to remember everything about her because it's just such an interesting, compelling case, and there's just so much information. So let's also go back to how I was talking about her like early life. So she also too, when she came to America, she even she gained an interest in like motorcycles. So she even like bought a motorcycle, didn't even know how to drive it yet, but bought one. And she took classes, joined some motorcycle clubs, and everyone really thought that everyone said that she was always like the light of the party. She was always happy, never had enemies. And then she even did like taekwondo and things like that. So she was very like active and social. So, police finally arrive. They start questioning everybody, and they realize kind of like not a shit show, but how hard it is going to be to actually like find who did this, because like I said, they had a Halloween party the night, like a few nights before. So there's a lot of people's DNA that are in her apartment. Even people that like don't even really know her. Think of it that way, like you like go to like a Halloween party, like your friend invites you, like, oh hey, my apartment complex having a Halloween party, like let's go, and you go, you've never met this person before, and then the next thing you know, they're like murdered, and then your DNA is there. Isn't that scary? So that was like kind of the case for a lot of the people that were. They instantly start questioning people that were at the party. No one really knows. That everyone brings up the altercation, but says it was nothing really that big of a deal. And the roommate, not the roommate, the neighbor, they didn't really think much of him at that point. And so they keep on interviewing people, trying to figure out what happened to her. And they still can't really figure out. Now the good thing is though that they do have tons of evidence. So they searched her apartment, found, you know, like evidence that there was motor oil from that was probably laying around in her apartment because she was into motorcycles, so she probably did change her own oil, I'm sure. And sure, they found the empty bottle of the castor oil, or the oil that you put in your motorcycle. I don't know the exact name of it. So in the dumpster, they found a bloody bathrobe, her costume, sheets that were missing from her bed, the oil cabinet too, or the container. So they ran it and sent it off for testing. Unfortunately, it took months for the testing to come back. So this case drags on for several years. So as they're doing that, they're questioning people, and they do have a few people in interest. So the first big suspect in this case is Emmanuel. And so he at first was not talked about because people did not realize that the police did not know about him. So one of the people that did attend the party and lives in that apartment building lied about that she was alone that night when really Emmanuel was with her. And the thing is, Emmanuel has a very large record of a violent record. Like he's done like sexual assault, even murder, I believe, too. So they bring him in for questioning, and his story like kind of lines up, but not really. He claims that he was asleep by like 1 o'clock or something, but his phone and text message records show that he was actively texting and calling people from like 2 a.m. to like 5 a.m. So he was obviously awake and is obviously lying about something. So they eventually like take him in because his DNA, his blood is found in her apartment, but it is like attested, or whatever the word is, from other people at the party that he did like get into a scuffle and he like got like a busted lip or like a bloody nose, and that's why his blood was in her apartment, because he even went to the bathroom to clean himself up. So that is kind of like a good alibi in a way, but not really, you know. So he also, like, his DNA tested on a few of the items that were hers, and just also too, she was sexually assaulted too, and he did have a history of that. So they ran into like this database of like testing of like to find out the percentage of how much it was likely to be him, and it was a pretty high percentage. Like the police did their own, and they said like out of like 1,000 and like something or something like that, and this database said like 56 million like chance that it was him. So they arrest him 2 years later in 2010. So like I said, this case just dragged on, and poor, like her family, like poor thing, like when she did pass, they had a huge memorial for her here in America, and a lot of people showed up for it, which just shows how much she was loved. But then also in India too, her body was shipped over so that they could give her a proper burial and so that she could be with her family. Police have now arrested Emmanuel, and they try to start the trial, but it's just not really working. Like they had a lot of evidence, but they didn't really have that much evidence. It's such a weird case, and they kept on going back and forth too, because it was mainly probable cause. So he had one of the trials, the jury ended up doing like 6 against 6, so it was a mistrial, and he was retried again, but then he appealed it because they also started thinking like this maybe wasn't just him alone, or maybe it was just someone altogether that did it themselves instead. So let's talk about CJ. So CJ, when he was interviewed, the police noticed that he did have a limp in his wall. Now, he claims that he went to a party a few days later or a day after the Halloween party, and they did wrestling there, and that's where he hurt his leg. But people at that party say that when he showed up to the party, he was already limping. Okay, so we're back. I had to wait a minute and I ate some more because my camera overheated, so that's great. It means I need to wrap it up. So CJ was questioned because he started becoming more and more of an interest, like a suspect of interest. So he claims that the limp is from that party, but the people at the party claim no. He came to the party with that limp. While this is all going on too, the trials are going on with Emmanuel. and more, CJ is becoming more and more of a suspect. Now CJ is named in court, and he's actually he even goes on the court stand during the trial. Of course, he didn't answer a lot of questions because he didn't want to incriminate himself, so a lot of the answers he used like the whole I don't want to incriminate myself excuse. I guess is that the plead the fifth? I don't know. So in 2019, Emmanuel is released from prison after being in prison for almost 10 years because of this case. To this day, no one still knows really who did it. A lot of people think it was CJ, or that CJ has something to do with it or helped maybe Emmanuel or someone else do this whole thing, because the thing is, also, one of the questions that CJ was asked in trial was, did he stop taking his medication? Because he was actually on psychiatric medication. And he said that weeks before the murder, he did stop taking his psychiatric medicine. Now, the thing is, he did not disclose, and no one knows what it was for exactly. And apparently him and the girl, Arpana, I wish I could know how to say her name right. They were really close to each other, but over the past few months, they had kind of grown apart from each other because she joined this motorcycle club, she was doing taekwondo, she was very busy with her life. So even though they lived next to each other, they just didn't really talk anymore. And there's reports of CJ telling people that he was excited to see her at the party and that he wanted to sleep with her, and he had a feeling that tonight was going to be the night. And friends also say that even after the murder, CJ would ask the friends and almost like question himself and like ask the friends to get like self-reassurance. He would ask like, well, did I kill her? Because they also questioned him, asking if when he did hear the noise, if he went over to her apartment at all that night. And at first it was no, but then it slowly changed into I don't know, I don't remember. And a lot of things he didn't remember either. Like he claimed that he did fall asleep, but then they also checked his cell phone records, and he apparently was he like made calls to her like throughout the night and whatnot and tried to contact her throughout the night. So, but without any solid evidence, because also too his DNA was found on like the rope that was used to like strangle her, and whatnot. His DNA was found in a lot of places. There still wasn't enough evidence or ways to end up charging him with the murder. So to this day, her case still remains unsolved. I personally think that it most likely was CJ. Maybe Emmanuel might have helped him or whatnot. Maybe they, were in cahoots somehow together. But after hearing he was off of his meds, even though also too, being off your meds doesn't mean that you are going to go crazy and kill someone. I do want to say that. But I do feel like in his case, those weeks were probably very blurry for him from what he says. Like he doesn't even really remember most of it either. And he just like abruptly stopped taking them too. Like he didn't like wean off of it or anything like this. Like it wasn't like it was a doctor order to stop taking his meds. Like he just woke up one day and just stopped taking his meds. And the infatuation, like that, it showed how they talked about how he did actually really like her and care about her, and that he was hoping that that night was going to be the night. I have a feeling that maybe he did try to make a move and she rejected him, and maybe that put him into a rage, and so he like sexually assaulted her and then murdered her right after. I think that's the case. I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's really all over the place. There's just so much information. I'll probably enter like little text bubbles here and there, or like bullet points in the description. But yeah, comment down below what y'all think of this case. Have you ever tried a hot pot before? Would you ever try it? I would definitely eat it again. I really enjoyed this meal, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.